right now on Our Indiana. The IU men's soccer team had a field day against Rutgers, while the women's soccer team battled for the Golden Boot against rival Purdue.
And Hoosier football routed Georgia Southern during its first home game in 3 weeks on Saturday, improving to over 500 for the first time this season.
That and more coming up on Our Indiana. Hello and welcome to Our Indiana. I'm Mackenzie Salmon.
And I'm Zain, Pyarali. 6 different IU sports were in action this weekend, so let's get to it. We start off with the classic IU-Purdue rivalry, this one for the Battle of the Golden Boot in women's soccer. After being on the road for nearly a month, the IU women's soccer team returned home Saturday to face Purdue, trying to win its first Golden Boot match since 2014. The Hoosiers got on the board early as junior forward Maya Piper scored her 5th goal of the season off a rebound from the crossbar in the 25th minute to give IU a 1-0 advantage. IU held Purdue scoreless in the first half, but in the 64th minute, Maddie Williams finds Sarah Griffith at the top of the box as she sends a strike past Bethany Copel in goal to tie the game up at 1. Neither side could capitalize in the remainder of regulation or in overtime, as the game ended in a 1-1 draw, and Purdue keeps the Golden Boot for the 3rd straight season.
The now number 2 ranked Indiana men's soccer team dominated the field Friday in a 5-0 victory against Rutgers. Junior Corey Thomas opened up the scoring in the 32nd minute after taking the feed from Spencer Glass to put the Hoosiers up 1-0. The offensive strike continued with a 28-yard free kick by Timmy Mell just 10 minutes later, leaving the Hoosiers with a 2-0 lead at halftime. And here's another look from that free kick at the top of the left. Thomas landed his 2nd goal in the 59th minute of the game and 3rd of the season off the assist by junior Austin Poncho. 44 seconds later, it was Poncho on the scoring end, only 8 yards out of the volleying the header from Rashad Hyacinth. And of course, it wouldn't be a goal without Rashad's signature dance, and he even got Poncho in on this one. Thomas Ward nicked the final tally of the night and his first career goal, elevating IU to a 6-0-2 on the season, with a 2-0-2 in Big Ten conference play. The win wasn't the only thing for the Hoosiers to celebrate over the weekend, as they now outscore their opponents with 19 goals on the season and 2 allowed. That and the 6 shutouts are the best in program history since 1993.
IU volleyball started off Big Ten play this week with 2 home games at University Gymnasium. Wednesday, the Hoosiers played host to the Illinois Fighting Illini. IU held its own in set 1, trailing the Illini by just 1, as Kendall Bierman keeps the set alive for the Hoosiers, but Illinois responds back, dumping it in as Sam Fogg gets to the ball before it hits the ground, but a ball handling error on IU cost them set 1 25-23. The Hoosiers would drop set 2 as well, and in the 3rd set, it was all Illinois once again. IU showed fight, keeping the game alive as Elizabeth Asdale knocks it over, but Illinois' Jacqueline Quaid records the kill between a trio of Hoosiers to win the game for the Illini in 3 straight sets. Hoosier volleyball also faltered Saturday night at home against Maryland, losing once again in 3 straight sets. The Terrapins took it to the Hoosiers, winning the first 2 sets 25-17 and 25-19. Set 3 was closer, but IU blew a 19-14 lead as Maryland was able to take the final set 26-24. 12 of IU's 14 Big Ten losses last season were decided in 3 straight sets, and now the first 2 Big Ten games of this season have been sweeps as well. Volleyball is back in action Wednesday when they head to West Lafayette to face off against Purdue.
The Hoosiers had a tough weekend as they traveled to the East Coast to face off against number 23 Rutgers and number 25 Monmouth. Gianna Mancini put the Scarlet Knights on the board with only 6 minutes left in the first half after scoring on a rebound from Katie Johnson's saved penalty corner shot. By the second half, the Hoosiers were able to make an intercept and draw a penalty corner, but were unable to score on the play. In the 54th minute, Rutgers scored in a drag flick to give them a 2-point lead. The Hoosiers ended their first Big Ten road game with Sam Sire and Maddie Latino racking 2 shots on goal each and a season high of 11 saves for Katie Johnson. The Hoosiers met the Hawks for the first time in program history on Sunday with an overtime loss of 2-1. Claire Woods scored her first goal on the season and second of her career in the 19th minute due to a goal-off rebound, giving the Hoosiers a 1-0 lead in the first half. At the start of the second, the Hawks' Rachel Conowall scored an equalizer on the penalty stroke in the 36th minute. Neither the Hawks nor the Hoosiers could produce a game winner in regulation, forcing the Hoosiers' second overtime of the season. Despite a penalty corner and 2 total shots by IU's Kelsey Geis and Riley Pearson, the Hawks emerged in the last minute with a game-winning shot by Georgia Garden Batchup. The Hoosiers will continue their road stint this weekend as they travel to the Midwest to face their third Big Ten opponent of the season, number 19 Iowa on Friday and St. Louis on Sunday.
Both the IU men's and women's cross-country teams were in action this Friday in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts at the Coast to Coast Battle in Beantown meet hosted by Boston College. The Hoosier women placed second among 22 schools, with 3 Hoosiers finishing in the top 12 individually. IU junior Catherine Resever led the Hoosiers, finishing second overall in the 5K race with a time of 17:03. On the men's side, the Hoosiers placed third at the meet, with sophomore Ben Veach leading the way for IU, finishing 6th overall in the 8K race. Both teams will return home next Saturday to host the Sam Bell Invitational in Bloomington. IU football was back on the field Saturday against Georgia Southern after its game last weekend against Florida International was canceled. Our Indiana's Joe Cantor has the story.
Saturday's game for IU football was a scorcher, with temperatures at Memorial Stadium reaching well over 90 degrees. But that wasn't nearly as hot as the Hoosiers' play on the field. IU dominated the Eagles of Georgia Southern in all facets of the game on Saturday, scoring touchdowns on offense, defense, and special teams. Running back Morgan Ellison burst onto the scene, rushing for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, the explosive Jay-Shun Harris was up to his old tricks, returning a punt 70 yards the other way for a touchdown. That marks the second consecutive week in which Harris has taken a punt back to the house for a score. And the defense did much more than just hold down the triple option attack of the Eagles. Andre Brown was active on a 22-yard scoop and score off a Georgia Southern fumble. Tom Allen offered his thoughts post-game on Jay-Shun's success.
Yeah, offense, defense, special teams. How about Jay-Shun? That kid's unreal, and they're gonna quit punting to him probably. So that's he's making them pay. So, and what a great story, golly! Just so proud of him. Awesome young man.
The Hoosier football team has now won 2 consecutive games for the first time under head coach Tom Allen, and the Hoosiers are just 2-1 on the young season. Reporting for Our Indiana, I'm Joe Cannon.
Thanks, Joe, for that IU football update, as Georgia Southern did not stand a chance against the Hoosiers on Saturday.
We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, as when we come back, we'll take an in-depth look at the number 2 men's soccer team in the nation on Our Indiana.
Hi, I'm Sage Steele of ESPN. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Indiana University.
Welcome back to Our Indiana.
The IU men's soccer team is currently undefeated and they're ranked number 2 in the nation. Our Indiana Spencer Davis sits down with Eddie Cotton and Josh Eastern to talk about the early season success the Hoosiers are having and their big matchup Tuesday against number 1 Notre Dame on this edition of Cream v. Crimson.
Thanks, Mackenzie. For the second straight year and the 12th time in school history, the Indiana men's soccer team started the season undefeated through 8 matches. The Hoosiers have impressively outscored their opponents 19-2 while amassing their 6-0-2 record, and 10 different players have accounted for the team's first 19 goals. I'm joined today with Josh Eastern of the IDS, who is their beat reporter for men's soccer, and Eddie Cotton, who is the BTN Student U broadcaster for men's soccer. Mason Toy, an IU freshman who's had 3 of those first 19 goals. How is he and the rest of the freshmen for the Hoosier team really come together to start off this young season?
Well, they were ranked in the top 3 recruiting class in the entire country, and they were coming in with high expectations, and they've really lived up to those expectations. Like you said, Mason Toy with already 3 goals, he's tied for the team lead. But then you have Griffin Dorsey on the wing. He has been probably one of the most explosive players for this Indiana team, just causing havoc for opposing defenses, getting in behind, running downhill into the box. He's been impressive. And then you also have Trey Muse in goal, who has 6 shutouts on the season. He's been absolutely fantastic for this team, playing well beyond his years. And Coach Todd Dagley did a great job bringing in this recruiting class, and they've really shown it so far.
And then in addition to the freshmen, we have juniors Corey Thompson and Andrew Gutman have been really enjoying some breakout season thus far in 2017. Eddie, can this be attributed to more playing time, changes in playing style, or just progression due to another year of experience?
Well, when you talk with Coach and you talk with the players that have made those improvements, it's been straight progression. You look at Andrew Gutman. Last season, he had 40 shots, 1 goal. This season, he has 12 shots and 3 goals. He's leading the team in goals, and a big reason for that, as something that Coach Yeagley harped on, is that he spent his entire summer working on how to score in the final thirds, how to finish when you're at that last final point to try and get those major goals. And he's been so pivotal for this team. And then Corey Thomas, another experienced guy who I think his approach has been more playing time. He just notched a brace against Rutgers after playing for a majority of the game instead of Griffin Dorsey. And it's been really impeccable to see a team that has been kind of defined by its freshman class, getting some help from experienced options that can come in there in bigger games against Big Ten opponents.
All right. And now the 2 goals that IU has allowed this season are the fewest that the team has allowed through 8 games since 1993. Josh, how comfortable must head coach Todd Yeagley be with his back line play and with the performance of true freshman goalie Trey Muse?
I mean, he's just really glad to have that back line. Grant Lillard, the All-American senior, I mean, he just holds down that back line. You have Andrew Gutman, like we talked about, scoring those goals, going up and down those flanks. You have Timmy Mell, who's been scoring goals on free kicks. I mean, he's not just defending well, he's also providing goals for this team, and that's just so instrumental in why this IU team has been so successful. And, I mean, they don't let up goals, but they also just don't let up shots on goals. And I think that's the most impressive thing. That's what Yeagley has been talking about with how impressed he is with his defenses. He doesn't really look at necessarily those goals that go into the back of the net. It's the shots that they give up. They're just not giving up any shots. And if you don't have any shots, you can't really score goals.
Right. And so this Tuesday night, Indiana will face, of course, a huge challenge as the Hoosiers host the #1 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish at Bill Armstrong Stadium. This will be the first time that a top-ranked opponent has played in Bloomington since Notre Dame came in 2014. Now, last season, IU traveled to South Bend to play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are also #1 in the country, and the Hoosiers were shut out 4-0, but IU leads the overall series 28-9-3. So, Eddie, what must the Hoosiers do Tuesday night to defeat the top team in the country and notch win #9 on this young season?
I think the biggest key for Indiana is looking at that number 10 position, looking at how they kind of try to penetrate this Notre Dame defense that is almost just as stout as Indiana's. They've only given up 7 goals in the season, and they've been incredibly strong all year. And you look at all the different facets of this team. The back line is set and strong. The attacking options have been great all year so far. But really there have been questions at that 10 role. Who is going to find the supply and find that final pass to set up what could be a pivotal 1 goal that Indiana needs and what could be a 1-0 game?
Yeah, and I'm looking at just that attacking presence from Notre Dame because their 2 starting forwards, John Gallagher and Jeff Farina, have combined for 10 goals already this season. And they're going up against IU, who's only let up 2 goals this season. So that's going to be a really good matchup to kind of see who has the upper hand there. Is Notre Dame going to be kind of pushing it and try to get a goal early and maybe just try to sit back after that? Or is Indiana going to try to push the game and try to score a goal early? There's so many fascinating matchups in this game, but the Notre Dame offense against that Indiana defense is going to be something to watch.
There you have it. Tuesday night, the top 2 teams in the nation match up in Bloomington. You won't want to miss this one. We have a big thanks to our guests, Eddie Cotton and Josh Eastern, for joining us on this segment of Cream vs. Crimson. And for our Indiana, I'm Spencer Davis. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Spencer, Eddie, and Josh for that great insight on the men's soccer program. IU scored 5 goals last outing against Rutgers. How did that happen? Our Indiana's Alex Emhoff dives deep into one of the Hoosier goals and the first ever edition of Why It Worked.
Thanks, guys. During IU's exciting 5-0 win against Rutgers, 4 different Hoosiers were able to tally goals on Friday night when IU junior Corey Thomas opened up the scoring with a doorstep shot assisted by Spencer Glass. Not only did the Hoosiers see goals from a number of different players, but the assist game stole the show. Goal number 3 for the Hoosiers came by way of a beautiful cross made by Austin Poncho from the left side of the net to find Corey Thomas wide open for his second goal of the night. Now let's see why this worked. Thomas was able to create space for the Hoosiers by escaping the defenders and hanging back, then charging the slot just in time to kick the one-timer. The Hoosiers ultimately outshot the Scarlet Knights by 14 and managed to get 12 of their shots on net. IU will need to use this momentum as they welcome the Fighting Irish to Bill Armstrong Stadium Tuesday night to bout it out for number 1. Now back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Alex. Before we sign off today, let's fast forward and take a look at the week ahead for IU athletics. Dan Black joins us now with more.
Thanks, guys. It's a big week for IU athletics, so let's get started. On Tuesday night, the number 2 ranked IU men's soccer team will play a much anticipated matchup when they host the number 1 ranked and in-state rival Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 7 p.m. at Bill Armstrong Stadium. The Hoosiers have yet to lose this season and will try to push their 2-game win streak up to 3. In women's volleyball news, on Wednesday night, the Hoosiers women's volleyball team will travel up to West Lafayette to face off against a tough Purdue Boilermakers team. The 13th ranked Boilermakers are 11-2 on the season and just recently suffered their first home loss, falling to Ohio State. It'll be a quick turnaround for both teams as the two foes will play each other again Saturday night. This time the Hoosiers will be the home team, with the game being played at University Gym at 7 p.m. Switching to cross country, on Saturday morning, both the IU men's and women's cross country teams will compete in the Sam Bell Invitational. The women's 6K will begin at 10 a.m., while the men's 8K will get underway just an hour later. Both teams were fantastic last weekend at the coast-to-coast battle in Beantown, with the IU women finishing second and the IU men in third, respectively. Both teams will look to replicate those performances this weekend. Saturdays are for a lot of things, but for most of us, it's for college football. Tom Allen will get his first taste of head coaching a Big Ten road game when he and his Hoosiers travel to Happy Valley to battle the 4th-ranked Penn State and Indy Lions at 3:30. IU will be tasked with slowing down Penn State's potent run game, led by Heisman hopeful Saquon Barkley. Barkley has over 1,000 all-purpose yards and 6 touchdowns in this young season. That's all I have this week. Enjoy all the games, but remember, if you miss any of the action, you can find it all on IUHoosiers.com. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Dan. Well, that's all we have for this week on Our Indiana. I'm Zain Pyarali.
And I'm Mackenzie Salmon. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.